Okay. Kia ora tātou, everybody. Welcome, members of the public. We're just going to start the meeting with a karakia, which we'll also deliver. Kia ora. Thank you, everybody. We have no apologies. Conflicts of interest, which is a standing agenda. Anybody want anything new to declare? Nope. Okay. Acknowledgements and tributes. I don't have any this time. Anyone else? No. Okay. We have no urgent business. And so we get on to item 6. That's a very fast meeting so far, which is the substantive item, and it's local government reform. Just before we get into this, council have had a bit of a discussion, and I just want to say on behalf of the council how disappointing it is that the government has chosen to give all the councils in the country only 3 months to make a decision of this nature. It is completely impossible to have everything that we need in that time, and it's also shortchanged our communities because meaningful consultation hasn't been possible. So I think we'd just all like to acknowledge that this has been a very unfortunate process to have to go through, but go through we did. Having said that, we have had a large amount of material, and if anyone doubts it, I brought all mine in my briefcase, that much, and that's come from various sources, and I particularly want to thank through our CEO, her and the staff who have been working on this in addition to their normal day jobs. It's pretty much taken over everyone's lives for several weeks. Thank you very much. We're all very grateful for the work that was done, Jan. Thank you for that. So we've got several resolutions on the table. We have been talking about this for some time now, and we've had many meetings and many informal get-togethers and talks, and we've agreed we have had all our, as much as we could of our questions answered, not all of them because they can't all be answered at this time, but everything that we can. So the council would like to just get on with a debate and some decisions. The first decision, is to receive the report. Can somebody move that, please? Councillor Taylor, thanks. Councillor Ellams. All those in favour, are against, no, carried. Right. Now we get into something substantive. So the first decision is to be part of the Head Start proposal. We all know what that means, and it's noting that the proposed backstop process may not be in the best interest of the community. In other words, maybe it's better for us to decide than for the community to decide. So I probably need somebody to move that now too, and we'll get into that. Thanks, Councillor Archer, Councillor Ellams. Okay, do you want to discuss that, councillors, or are you happy to have a vote on that? Any discussion on that one?
Happy to go to the vote. I think we've
You happy, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Nobody wants to discuss that, so we are going to agree to be part of a Head Start proposal for local government reform, noting that the proposed backstop process may not be in the best interest of the community. Thank you very much. All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
It's no. Carried. Okay, we now get into something more substantial and substantive. We have some either ors here, so we can put them in any order they are. I'll take them on the order that they're in on the paper. We'll get the one moved, and then we will have a debate. And then I'm assuming that if the first one is moved and accepted and voted for, then that's it. If it's voted down, then we still have to vote for the other one, or do we just?
I think
that
having started, having
isn't it?
having accepted Head Start, if you accept the first one, the second one is mute, and if you decline the first one, the second one becomes the motion.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. So I need somebody to move 3, the first part of 3, Councillor Ellam's moved. Councillor Isaac seconded. Okay, now I'm going to open that for debate, and I suspect that this will be the major debate of the meeting. So you can speak more than once, but I thought we'd start by going around the table if that's helpful for people, and just people can state what they believe. I don't know whether the proposer of the motion the mover of the motion wants to speak first. Councillor Elams, do you want to speak first?
No,
Happy to if you want to.
I'm happy to state my case.
We've got a 5-minute speaking slot.
Great. Thanks very much, Mayor Fran. So I'd just like to start off that and reiterate, like our Mayor said, over the last 3 months, we've considered a large amount of information regarding amalgamation. We've received consultant reports, which are assumption-based, high-level, and openly state that they should not be relied upon for making decisions. In the Martin Jenkins report, the only comments that I'm placing any weight on are the comments of the overseas examples of local government amalgamation, where the savings and benefits which were proposed were not delivered after the amalgamations occurred. And we've heard the same about Auckland Super City. There are also big questions around Greater Wellington Regional Council, their effectiveness and their cost. And I believe that there are significant savings that can be made in that space. In all of these reports, there are so many what would-bes, could-bes, maybes, but no certainties. Remember that these reports are all assumptions. What I do place the weight on is the results of our survey. And while there was no explicit question, do you prefer a Wairarapa or a Wellington unitary? Our communities have spoken. 76% favoured a Wairarapa unitary for representing South Wairarapa interests. 71% favoured a Wairarapa unitary for providing effective local services. 63% said it was very important that decision making is made by Wairarapa elected people, and 54% favoured a Wairarapa unitary for planning of future growth. 40% favoured a Wellington unitary for securing government funding. Looking further into that survey, many stated that affordability and financial sustainability were of high importance, and this is important. This has been important to past and current councillors, with South Wairarapa here proving that in the last year we can do this by delivering services locally without a Wellington-centric organisation, i.e. Wellington Water, who are overcharging us by 45%. In the survey, many opposed a Wellington-wide authority, arguing that Wellington doesn't understand Wairarapa's character, rural character, our priorities, our economy, and that the Wairarapa unitary was preferred. Many spoke of how it was important to protect rural interests, our voice and small community representations. And talking about representation, with all these reports, we still don't have a definitive answer on what the Wairarapa representation will look like for a Wellington unitary or a Wairarapa unitary. That is still a work in progress. So why would you all vote for a Wellington Wairarapa unitary, which at the moment has so much uncertainty and risk, with Wairarapa only having 2 representatives at the top table? This is in spite of what our communities have told us what they want in representation. I feel that is a far greater risk than the affordability question / affordability risk. So in light of the information we've received, the reports, the survey results, it is our job as elected councillors representing those who voted us into this role to heed their feedback. In my first term on Community Board and these 2 terms on Council, I've taken this role to represent Martin Borough and South Wairarapa ratepayers, not my own personal biases or my political views, and I would hope that each and every one of you have done the same. There has been lots of discussions about affordability and in these discussions, and what this tells us is that, and some of the information that we received, that we can make a Wairarapa Unitary work. And most importantly, if you're using your head and listening to your community, they have told us that they want a Wairarapa Unitary. Voting for a Wairarapa Unitary will allow all 3 Wairarapa councils to design a new entity that is fit for purpose and affordable for our whole district and all our ratepayers. We have the opportunity to leave behind the high metro cost portions of organisations such as Greater Wellington that aren't fit for purpose anymore, and focus on delivering priorities rather than nice to haves, as well as ensuring that our rates are affordable and Wairarapa's local rural voice is protected and well represented. That is what our communities here in the South Wairarapa want.
Thank you, councillor.
We go next.
Yep, I'm just going alphabetically.
Yeah, yep.
Deficits of hands.
I want to start by commending my fellow councillors for the work behind this decision. It hasn't been simple and it shouldn't be treated as one. I also say plainly this would have been an easier choice if central government hadn't abolished the regional council model. That option is gone. The real choice in front of us is what we build instead. And my vote is for a Wellington Wairarapa Unitary. This is about voice, not just being heard after the fact, but being in the room while this thing is actually built. If we choose in, Wairarapa shapes the community council powers, the transport arrangements, the rating settings now, but before they're locked in. That matters most for us. We carry the largest land area in this region on one of the smallest populations, and we're projected to grow faster than metropolitan Wellington to 2053. A region like that needs decision-making power that protects rural land, water and catchment priorities on their own terms, not a plain population vote that treats our farmland the same as suburb. Being at the table now is how we secure that. That includes transport. Our rail line already runs through Metlink. Every serious option on the table, standalone or joint, has Wairarapa needing some kind of arrangement with the wider transport network. Because our line and our funding are already tied into it, under the regional unitary, we're not negotiating our way into the network from an outside as a smaller neighbour asking for a fair deal. We're inside it as an equal partner in how it's run and funded with the say in decisions that affect our commuters, our freight, and not just be a recipient to whatever terms we are seen as a customer. I also want to speak plainly about something this region has struggled with for a long time, delivering the big stuff. Water storage is the clearest example. We've talked about it, we know we need it, and we haven't built it. Not because the engineering is impossible, but because the political will and financial weight to commit to a project of that scale has never quite been there in 3 small councils, each carrying their own debt limits and their own competing priorities. A larger unitary with a bigger balance sheet and one governing body that can actually commit to a regional infrastructure program and see it through past a single electoral cycle is a better platform for finally getting projects like this built. And there's a number I can't leave out because it's not an outside consultant's estimate. It's our own. Masterton's commercial director modelled what a standalone Wairarapa Unitary would do to rates once we absorb the regional functions. And his numbers land between 13 and 16%. Rising as high as 22% in high cost scenario. That's before a single shock hits. And it lands on a community with our own testing tells us already ranks value for money and cost of living as its top priority. Going alone doesn't just carry financial risk in a crisis. It carries a self-inflicted double-digit rates hike on day one in normal times. That is the nearest term threat this region faces. And there's an option here on the table that avoids that. My yes for a Wellington Wairarapa Unitary comes with an expectation that this council pushes now for community council powers, local transport priorities, catchment management and rating matters to be written into instantial legislation, not left as a promise for later. Voice that isn't secured in law is just an invitation we can be uninvited from. Before I close, I want to tell you where this vote actually comes from. Over the last 2 weeks, I've sat down with constituents, with public servants, and with people who are staunch Wairarapa Unitary supporters. Real conversations, 30 minutes or more, questions asked and answered honestly. And by the end of nearly every one of those conversations, people understood where I've landed, even when they didn't disagree. Here's what I kept coming back to. Wellington's water failures, GWRC's record on our waterways, Wellington city politics. Those are real grievances. And I'm not dismissing them, but they are the record of organisations that no longer exist after this decision. They cannot be laid at the feet of a structure that hasn't been built yet. One that is deliberately, structurally different, designed from the ground up to put local voice and local power into law rather than leave it to an agency's goodwill. And I'll finish on this. As your Martin Brothers Ward councillor, my ward is bound to Wellington. Our schools, our commuters, our workers, our tourists. When Wellington does well, we do well. When Wellington's on its knees, so are we. And we sit at the bottom end of the rumour hunger, where climate disasters aren't once in a generation risk. They're a weekly reality in the last few months. A balance sheet big enough to actually carry that risk is the difference between managing the next flood or being broken by it. That's what lets me sleep at night. We're not voting to keep an old GWRC. We're voting to replace it with something better. And that's my vote. And that's why I'm asking you to join me.
Thank you. Happy to take any other volunteers to speak or.
To go around, eh?
Yeah, Councillor Baker. Yeah.
First and foremost, thank you to Janice and the team for supporting and guiding us with all the information that you've given us, which has been huge. So, tēnā koutou. He iti te kupu, he nui te kōrero. So, very small, but my kōrero has a few meanings in between. So, I was elected by my community, Great Elm Ward in Papawai, and I'm here to represent the views of that community. In recent weeks, we've received a range of reports and information. However, many of the conclusions represented appear to rely on assumptions and modelling rather than comprehensive factual evidence. Consequently, I remain unable to assess with confidence the costs, benefits and broad implications of the proposed options. In the absence of reliable information, it is difficult to determine how an informed decision can be made in the best interests of my communities. Nevertheless, the South Wairarapa survey indicates strong support among ratepayers for the establishment of a Wairarapa unitary authority, an option that I fully support and endorse. Ultimately, the final decision rests with the Minister, who will determine Wairarapa's future governance arrangements. I will continue to advocate for Wairarapa's local voice and future. And in closing, e mātahi ana, e matara. Work together and be diligent. Kia ora.
Come on.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, councillors, council officers, I'd like to reiterate everybody else's thanks to all the hard work that everybody's put into bringing us to this point. And of all the decisions I've been required to make across my 2 terms and 4 years as a councillor, this is undoubtedly the biggest and most important. Over that time, I've had to consider and vote on some very significant issues. Māori wards, the Cape Palliser Paper Road, local waters done well, representation reviews, rating reviews, annual plans, long-term plans, and many other issues that have generated strong opinions both inside and outside of this room. Each of those decisions carried consequences for our communities and required careful judgment, but none of them, in my view, come close to the significant decision before us today. This is a generational decision. The choice we make will shape governance in the Wairarapa for decades to come. Long after all of us have left this council table, future councillors and future communities will be living with the consequences of the vote we cast today. We have one opportunity to get this right. And that places a significant responsibility on all of us. I have spent many hours reading reports, attending briefings, workshops, listening to presentations, speaking with residents and weighing up the arguments. At times, the information has been complex, changeable, and sometimes even contradictory. There comes a point where we must ask ourselves a deeper question: what problem are we trying to solve? Because if the answer is simply about balance sheets, then local government reform becomes an accounting exercise. Bigger becomes better, scale becomes the objective, communities become numbers, and democracy becomes secondary. I cannot accept that. Local government was never created to simply manage assets. It exists to represent communities. To help me reach my decision, I have assessed the options against 3 criteria: democratic legitimacy, financial sustainability, reputation and influence. For me, any proposal must stand up across all three, for if it succeeds in only one area, that is not enough. So firstly, democratic legitimacy. We asked our residents and ratepayers what they wanted. The response was clear. More than 70% supported a Wairarapa unitary authority. As elected representatives, we are not delegates, we were not appointed, and we are not required to follow public opinion on every issue. Part of our role is to consider information that the wider public may not have access to. However, I do not believe that means we can simply disregard a strong and clearly expressed community preference. In fact, I believe that when a community gives us a clear direction, the burden of proof shifts. The question becomes, what evidence is so compelling that it justifies setting aside the wishes of the people we represent? I have not seen that evidence. Secondly, financial sustainability. There are councillors here who place significant weight on the financial modelling, and I understand that. I do too. But there is more to this decision than a balance sheet. Rates matter, but they shouldn't be the only thing that matters. The Martin Jenkins analysis indicates that every amalgamation option has the potential to be financially beneficial, including a Wairarapa Unitary Authority. It also shows that the present value of net savings for a Wairarapa Unitary sits within a relatively narrow range compared with the larger options. The report also tells us that the rates pressure will continue under any model driven by infrastructure, transport, resilience and investment requirements. In other words, this is not a choice between a financially successful model and a financially unsuccessful model. It is a choice between different governance models, all of which face future financial challenges. I believe the Wairarapa proposal is financially plausible and financially sustainable. It is organisationally achievable. It provides stronger local accountability. Most importantly, it aligns with the clearly expressed wishes of the people we were elected to represent. I believe history will judge us as to whether we have the courage to back Wairarapa's ability to govern itself or not. Thirdly, reputation and influence. The Wairarapa is not simply an extension of metropolitan Wellington. We are a distinct region with our own communities, our own catchments, our own environmental priorities, our own economy and our own identity. The Wairarapa proposal provides clearer local accountability and a stronger local voice. It builds on the considerable collaboration that already exists between our councils. Most importantly, decisions about Wairarapa priorities would continue to be made by people directly accountable to our Wairarapa community. Imagine another Cyclone Gabrielle. Would you rather wait while the priorities are balanced across the Wellington region, or have one council whose first priority is the Wairarapa? So in conclusion, the report suggests there may be a funding shortfall that needs to be addressed. The question before us is not whether that challenge exists. The question is who should be making the decisions about how it is addressed. I believe those decisions should be made by the people of the Wairarapa through a Wairarapa-focused council accountable to Wairarapa communities. I've heard it argued that councillors have had more access to more information than the public and therefore must make the tough decisions, and that is true. But having more information does not automatically mean knowing better than the community. The easiest thing to do would be to hide behind financial modelling and claim the answer is obvious. The truth is that it isn't. This decision required us to weigh economics, democracy, identity, accountability and community aspiration together. Our role is not to replace the voice of our residents. Our role is to consider the evidence, test assumptions, apply judgment and act in the best interests of our communities. We're not deciding whether one spreadsheet is better than another. We're deciding whether the Wairarapa believes it is capable of governing itself. If we do, then we should have the courage to build institutions that reflect that confidence. If we don't, then we should be honest enough to say we'd rather someone else continue making many of those decisions for us. After carefully considering the evidence before me, I believe a Wairarapa Unitary Authority satisfies the tests of democratic legitimacy, financial sustainability and local influence. For those reasons, I will be voting in favour of progressing the Wairarapa Unitary Authority. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor. Just looking around the table, any other volunteers? Councillor Park?
This is an exceptionally difficult decision for each of us. Central government has given councils a choice of Head Start or backstop options in a compressed timeframe of 3 months. This has not allowed for detailed analysis or effective consultation with the community. Engaging with the process, despite its limitations and time constraints, has provided us with high-level benchmarking and financial analysis presented on both the Wairarapa and wider Wellington and Wairarapa unitaries. Town hall meetings and a survey have given our community the opportunities to be informed and to share their feedback. I acknowledge the work of Mayor Wild, Deputy Mayor Taylor and council staff for their substantive work over the past 3 months. Both options have been identified as feasible, though with different strengths and risks. In general, rates are predicted to increase by 5.7% annually, with revenue for councils from rates expected to increase significantly over the next 10 years from 49 to 62%. This recognises the headwinds councils face in terms of increasing costs, infrastructure repair and replacement, and financial challenges in terms of operating budget, investment and debt servicing. Taken into account, water's been excluded as Wairarapa and Tararua water programs transfer to YT Waters in July 2027. The projected savings and rates across 25 years is narrow between the two models. However, the wider Wellington Wairarapa model offers greater future resilience to shocks, for example, major weather events or natural disasters, because of the large buffer it offers in terms of headroom for debt. The benefits of remaining in the wider regional unitary for intra-regional transport and environmental work are significant, as is other strategic work, including economic development, emergency management, waste management, climate change and resilience policy. Being part of the wider Wellington Wairarapa unitary means we would be a voice at the table, advocating for our needs as part of the wider region. In this more complex model, local voice is critical and will require clear devolution of delegations and funding for those place-based activities best met at sub-regional level. Further detailed design work would be needed to develop structures that are responsive, allowing local voices to be heard effectively. This is what I understand as the benefits and risks of the wider Wellington Wairarapa model. However, local voice is a key element of what is being asked for. Respondents to the survey identified that local place and local voice are paramount for our communities. Wairarapians want to stand as the Wairarapa, united, representing our unique geography and communities of interest, towns, rural communities, iwi interests and river catchments ourselves. Through this model, residents want services to be delivered efficiently and to remain affordable. It has been advised that a Wairarapa unitary will result in significant funding changes with regard to intra-regional environmental work programs and transport in particular. Shared arrangements will need to be put into place across a number of areas where intra-regional work is shared and will be beneficial at scale. A Wairarapa unitary will need to achieve significant efficiencies, but evidence from Marlborough, Tasman and Nelson unitary councils suggests this is possible and that holding regional functions within the same entity is beneficial. Iwi have indicated a preference for a Wairarapa unitary, and it is essential they are partners in decision making. As a Wairarapa unitary, we must find ways to ensure an engaged democracy that is less bureaucratic and more responsive. Engaging through our communities of interest and ensuring equitable representation across the entire Wairarapa region is essential. Together we can protect our unique interests, our rurality, our farming and fishing culture, our coastline, our heritage and stories, Te Wairarapa Moana, our dark sky status and the identity of each town, while strengthening how we present ourselves as a region, strengthening our economic and tourism links to Wellington and the international market. We need to be strong as that Wairarapa voice. It is what our communities have called for. Let's work together towards the reality of a united Wairarapa region. My vote is in support of a Wairarapa unitary.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. As you can hear from everybody's points of view, this decision is not exactly one extreme or the other. I think we're all sitting somewhere close to the middle and having to make a call one way or other. Came into the council not really expecting him to make the decision. Wasn't on the table. What I was very strongly supportive of was combined Wairarapa. So in some way or another, we're working towards that. But thank the council team for their support. It's been a never-ending stream of information, most of it pretty high level and hard to chew through. But they've done a great job in helping on that. A couple of opening points. We're not playing around with 10 years, 5 years here. We're playing around with 30 plus. So it's not a decision we can make and think we might solve it over that time frame. It's something we need to consider for a very long period out in the future. The process, as I alluded to, was short. It's limited in detailed analysis. Nothing compared levels of service, and so really none of it was directly comparable. So whatever we're doing, we're having to make a bit of a hunt rather than necessarily having all the information we possibly have. The further analysis that comes after this stage will actually generate a whole lot more solid information. And so that, even if we don't make a call on it, which at least give the government a solid way of looking at things. In terms of the Wairarapa challenge, I was looking at some stats, very tiny. They've got the same population as the Kapiti Coast, 2.6 billion of GDP. They've got 2.9 billion GDP. You think about Kapiti over the hill, it's not exactly large, but unfortunately for us, or possibly good for us, we've got 6 times the area to look after. So 6,000 hectares as opposed to 1,000 hectares. And that's expensive service. And actually New Zealand overall suffers the same fate. But a population half the size of bloody Melbourne spread right across a region, a country the size of New Zealand, which is very expensive to run. Also looking around, there's a comparison, GDP of Nelson, Tasman, and Marlborough, if you quite often get compared to all north of 3.5 billion. So Wairarapa is an area, and I mean, going to financials here is actually quite small in the scheme of things and therefore reasonably risky. Having said that as backgrounds, the key issues I think are really local voice and decision making, and then financial sustainability, and you can't look at them separately. From a financial sustainability point of view, while we might just balance the books and the financial analysis, and it can go either way, as everybody already said, looks unlikely that it will be sustainable in the longer term without significant rate rises. As far as working with Wellington, it certainly provides economies of scale, bigger balance sheet. But as everybody said, we need to beat the living daylights out of the way those structures work at the moment because they're overly expensive, overhead heavy. I think Councillor Archer already made points. They're a good indication of how you get it wrong, not how you make it right. So we need to be a voice to the table to make it right. Local voice and decision making. Wairarapa gets us all very focused on the Wairarapa. So strong local voice and decision making is really important. I think though in the end of the Wellington combined, the draft structures look reasonably sound. We get a reasonable local voice, we get devolved decision making, unlike what you get in Auckland, and probably potentially very importantly, we get a much stronger voice to central government. And I think when it comes to looking after ourselves in this area, either which way, we need to make sure that we've got a strong voice of central government. So sort of boiling it down, it's kind of, as I said the other day, it's heart and head. My heart's in the Wairarapa. I've been here for 20 years, been coming to Barbara since I was 2. So it's not an easy decision. My head, to be fair, is in the combined Wellington region. The longer term financial sustainability outweighs some reduction in local voice. But when I really tear it down, it's not my head and my heart, it comes down to a gut feel. As you can hear from everybody's points of view, it's not straightforward. But as many have said in talking to people around the region, it's local, but it's not local at any cost. So can we afford to do these things? And on that basis, I'm going to support Wellington combined. In the bigger picture, though, it's interesting. Masterton this morning with the Wairarapa unitary, which in some ways is a really good thing because out of this process, because we will end up following them most likely in terms of having to look at a Wairarapa, we will end up looking at a Wairarapa and a Wellington combined with Wairarapa. And I think that stands the best chance we'll ever see of actually getting a decent understanding of what the benefits might be either way, throwing a lot into the Wairarapa, Wellington or working with Wairarapa. Thank you.
Taylor?
Thanks, Mayor, for that. Good everyone. I think as others have reflected, this is certainly one of the most significant decisions that the council will make. It's not a choice any of us thought in the form it has been presented. Now, I've listened very carefully to the debate and the range of views presented, and like others have, I firstly just want to acknowledge my fellow councillors and also the staff that worked on it, as the decision we've been asked today to make is really not an easy one for us. When I stood for election, I did so on 2 key commitments, to keep rates as affordable as possible and to make certain we got the basics right, particularly investing in our core infrastructure to ensure it remains sustainable and resilient for the years ahead. When asked, I also openly acknowledged that I supported local government reform and amalgamation. But the reform I envisaged was one involving the 3 Wairarapa councils, without Greater Wellington Regional Council being included. The government has fundamentally changed that conversation. Its decision to abolish regional councils and require territorial authorities to become unitary authorities has left councils with just 2 choices: develop a proposal through the Head Start process will have a model imposed on us through the backstop pathway. I fundamentally disagree with the government forcing this decision on local communities. Constitutional change of this magnitude should be driven from the ground up, not imposed from the top down. Sadly, as others have reflected, councils have been given only limited time to work out the details, to consult and decide. But that is the reality we now face at the hands of ministers' decisions. Given those circumstances, I believe it is far better that we shape our own future and have it shaped for us. So in reaching a decision on which model best represents Wairarapa's longer term interests, I've weighed up three critical considerations. Firstly, based on affordability and financial sustainability, which option presents the lowest longer term financial risk over the next 20 to 30 years? Secondly, the governance structure most capable of delivering resilient and affordable services over the coming decades. And finally, which governance model is most likely to deliver effective local representation rather than simply assuming that a particular boundary will achieve it? The financial modelling, which has been undertaken by Morrison Lowe and Martin Jenkins, demonstrates that a Wairarapa Unitary Authority is technically viable. However, viability is not the same as affordability. The figures show that Wairarapa currently benefits significantly from regional cross-subsidisation. It's into the millions. If that regional funding arrangement disappears, so too does that financial support. While a Wairarapa Unitary Authority would have choices about how it manages the resulting gap, which is significant, it is difficult to avoid the conclusion that rates would come under considerable pressure. That pressure would come at a time when councils are already facing significant challenges, including major resource management reforms, increased regulatory and financial liabilities, rising expectations around service deliverability, and substantial investment requirements for ageing infrastructure. There are also uncertainties of what the yet to be announced rates cap will mean. Growing debt servicing costs, increased insurance costs, exposure to natural hazards, and the need to invest in climate resilience. At the same time, from 2027, our communities will begin receiving separate water bills under the new water entity. So against that backdrop, affordability and continued service delivery is simply not a catchphrase. It is, in my view, the central issue. I acknowledge that public sentiment strongly favours a standalone Wairarapa Authority, albeit not at any cost. I understand those views and I recognise the genuine concerns people have about representation, maintaining our local voice and rural identity, and ensuring they are not overshadowed by metropolitan priorities. Those concerns are legitimate and must be addressed in the design of any future governance structure. But I also believe we must distinguish between identity and governance. Our communities, history and character are not defined by council boundaries. South Wairarapa will remain South Wairarapa regardless of the governance model. And importantly, under a Wellington Wairarapa Unitary Authority, local communities would continue to have a voice through community councils, providing a mechanism for local issues, priorities and perspectives to be considered and addressed at the community level. That aside, I believe our responsibility as the councillors is to choose the structure most capable of delivering affordable, sustainable services over the decades ahead. In my view, also outside of affordability, there are many equally important strategic benefits from a Wellington Wairarapa Unitary Authority. Would provide greater financial resilience, a broader revenue base, increased capacity to absorb risk stronger technical capability, more and better integrated regional planning, greater influence with central government, and we are small, and a stronger platform for securing infrastructure investment and supporting economic development. It will also strengthen our collective ability to respond to emergencies and natural disasters, challenges that increasingly ignore administrative boundaries. The decision we make today, as I said earlier, is difficult. While the data and modelling is less than perfect, the long-term fiscal challenges facing local government, the need for better infrastructure planning, improved service delivery, better environmental stewardship under the new Resource Management Act reforms, and the need for greater resilience have persuaded me that a Wellington Wairarapa unitary authority offers the strongest foundation for the future. Having said that, my support comes with expectation. If this option proceeds, and I believe government will put us there anyway, we must insist on government's arrangements that genuinely protect local representation and local decision making. Because in the end, it's not the size of the council that will determine whether people feel represented. It is whether their voice is heard, the communities are respected, and their concerns influence the decisions that affect their lives. That, in my view, is the challenge we should all commit ourselves to meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. The councillor Watson,
Sure. Thanks, Mayor Fran.
which
Right. Right. With a lot to think about, and all the contributions so far very, very much on point, and deeply felt, deeply thought through. And I'd just like to the debate that we've been having over the last few weeks. Really appreciated contributions from everyone. Thinking of Councillor Aidan in particular, Chris, Rob, everyone, and councillors up the line, Carterton and Marston, I've been talking to. And I know some of us have been very bold, have got an idea of where they want to go, and have gone out and challenged themselves, talking to people, bringing their point of view for debate. And Chris was saying that I haven't, because like I've been changing my mind every 5 minutes for several weeks, especially about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I tell you, yeah, it's tough. But things shook down for me, about a week ago. I've had some strategic conversations, and we're a very vulnerable community. And today's a case in point. I was stuck in Wellington this morning. The road was closed, and I won't go into the shenanigans of how I got here. I did, but we're here to look at proposals, serious proposals, to cope with that vulnerability in the years ahead, and they're massive. And so I have a fear, that we end up like Tairāwhiti, just at the outside edges of everything. But just to come back, we're vulnerable. We've got 2 proposals. One's been taken away from us. The third, having a regional council. And I don't think they're both attractive. They've both got pros and cons, and we've been talking through all those, ad nauseum. Well, it's actually not. It's really interesting and thoughtful stuff. And it's not a matter for me of rejecting one as of preferring one. The Wairarapa proposal is feasible. Whether it's affordable, it's another matter. It's certainly vulnerable. And I look at a sort of the bigger picture is where it falls out for me. That the South at the moment, like this is sort of looking at the national sort of situation, the South Island and so on, is despite what they've been through with the earthquakes, they're pumping. And the North, the creative and the financial and the political sort of juice flowing north, we need that for the country as a whole, right? The North's got to thrive. If it isn't, the rest of us are in trouble. And Auckland Council haven't got everything they wanted from the government, because the Lux and Seymour Pact around leafy suburbs still applies. But there is this triangle up there, Hamilton, Tauranga, Auckland. It's full of vitality, growth, development. You can look at development two ways, sure. But we're the centre, and the centre is not lifting, right? Can the centre hold? And this is where the broader regional proposal comes in. I don't call it the Wellington one, because Wellington's just part of it. I think of it as the region. I think everyone in this region needs everyone else. Wairarapa needs Wellington, needs Hutton, whatever, vice versa. And the only way we're going to get the lift that we need, so that the centre is pumping as well, and so that we get some of that vitality that other places have, is by working together at the highest level that we can. And sure, the regional proposal is everything's a work in progress. But I'm really appreciative of all the number crunching that's been going on from staff, Janice in particular, trying to really, give us a strong idea of some practical and financial realities behind the situation. But I just see the appeal of the think, Wellington Water is history. It's gone. It disrupted Wellington as much as it did us. So I'm more positive. Generally, I'm pessimistic about a lot of things. I'm more positive about seeing the pluses in the regional proposal, and that's the way I go. And I see it as, like, in the sporting analogy, second division, first division. And Wairarapa is, second division is pretty good, but it's not first division. And we have a chance to be in the first division and make a real impact. And as other councillors have said, really, the legal framework, getting in on the ground floor, making those community voices like really solid, the rural interests really taken seriously, everything. And someone said to me that there's this little hub. You think Wellington, Masterton, up to Palmy, down Otaki, Kapiti, that whole area you want to lift together. Now I say Otaki, you say why? It's such a little place. But there's a real beating heart there. It's creative. It's like a spiritual capital in some ways. There's tremendous energy. And I think that in Wairarapa, and especially South Wairarapa, we have some of that and we want to harness it. And it's not just at Featherston. So there's this, I don't know, collectively rise for the greater good. That's where I am. Thank you.
Te mihi tuatahi ki te atua. Ke honore. Roa, ngā ringa tira ngā whanau. Whanau i o te Wairarapa. Angitāne. Whakamanu. Oko iwi. Tēnā koe, tēnā koe, tēnā koe. Ngā hāpore o te Wairarapa. Honga. Tēnei te mihinga ki a tautau ko tai mai. I te aroha ki a koutou. I ngā huri, noe te ruma. Ka member o tēnei kunihira i ngā hoa ki rote te tepu. E mihi nui ki a koutou. He iti taku kōrero he pounamu. I was told by my name that if you have something important to say you stand. Today is one of those days, and I acknowledge my tipuna that have come before me, and my mokopuna that are coming after me. And our deliberations, as you can see, the pressure of time, the lack of detail has been heavy upon us. We don't make these decisions lightheartedly because we are Wairarapa. I am a mokopuna of Kahungunu of Rangitane. However, my thoughts, one thing I have put before myself is a guide and my toe. And my toe is my mokopuna. Unfortunately, these institutions we have always thought about today, and we are bearing the brunt of that short-sightedness. I have to turn my gaze towards what is best for those that come behind me. What are the opportunities that I need to afford them? In coming days ahead, we will need each other. We need each other now. Across the motu. The best outcomes still needs to be pursued. Ngā kai o te rangatira he kōrero. We still need to deliberate and talk about the things that are best for all. My decision that I have in my heart and my head, taking into consideration all the information that you've heard, has to lie with what is best for those coming after me. And I have to continue to pursue what a Greater Wellington Wairarapa opportunity will afford. And that's where I want to place my support at this time. There is a lot to go. This is just the first step. Mauri ora e te whare.
Kia ora.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors. That was really very helpful, all of you. I would like to speak also to this. I think it's fair to say that during the election campaign, the issue of amalgamation often arose, and public opinion, I thought at that time, was changing, with more favouring the formation of one Wairarapa council, one TA, which was sensible given that we need much more strategic alignment. I don't think there was any kind of much debate about that, but no one contemplated that within a year we would be forced to consider a unitary authority taking over regional council delivery as well, and that has completely changed the nature of that debate. It would be much easier to make a decision if it were just driven by the heart, and some of you have also talked about that. Councillor Rusini, thank you for your what you've just said in the poll you had put down. But our duty as elected leaders is to think about the facts, in particular to make decisions for future generations, our mokopuna and their mokopuna. It's not just 20 years, it's actually 50 or 80 years. We're laying the foundation for that. Wairarapa is sparsely populated. Residents are already pushed very hard to stump up what's required, inexorably growing demand for money, especially in the face of climate change impacts. Today we've heard quite a lot about cost issues, and I thank you all for laying them out. I won't repeat all of that. It seems, people have a general understanding of where things are. The fact is we do benefit from the existence of a large group of commercial ratepayers elsewhere in this region. We benefit to a high degree from that. But should we base our decision solely on cost issues, or are there wider considerations about future value? Well, of course there are. We need to support the model that will enable the most vibrant, growing and prosperous Wairarapa, healthy and sane, where all people can enjoy opportunity and a high quality of life. And that's not just about privileged insiders like us around this table, because we actually are, or those who can afford to live well, but the alarmingly increasing numbers turning to our food banks, which is alarming at present. We do have our own particular issues in Wairarapa, so we need a significant degree of control over our destiny. Political representation is key. Wairarapa must have a voice that can be heard. In the Regional Mayoral Forum, we've arrived at a model that I think works for us. It's important, I think, to get this out into the public because it's not there at present. It's a region-wide two-tier unitary with a single back office, together with a region-wide elected body. It has several elected community councils, each with an elected leader and a number of members. They would have significant devolved responsibility for policy and budget. There would be one such council for Wairarapa with local staff and local service centres. The wider regional unitary authority would include the leaders of those local councils, plus a number of others elected from each community council area. The current proposed model is not strictly population-based, effectively recognising Wairarapa's role in the region as the primary sector, the main primary sector area for the region, and of course our role in our export economy. The indicative allocation of local council functions includes, amongst other things, delivery of a local emergency management, welfare and recovery, local bylaws and enforcement, catchment approach to environmental management such as pest control, flood management, local climate adaptation priorities and community resilience, hall and venue management and decisions on investment and divestment, parks, playgrounds, local service levels and renewals, local placemaking and amenity choices, local economic initiatives, events, grants, promotion and community development priorities. These are some, there are others as well. It's a good package of decisions in local hands. We're not there yet. There is still work to be done, but it's going in the right direction as far as I'm concerned. I just want to say something else because in the context of the last several weeks, there's been a lot of discussion about Wellington. And people seem to think that Wellington-based councillors vote as a bloc and they will always vote against the interest of Wairarapa. I need to say that from my wide experience as a local government leader in this region, that is simply not the case. In fact, Councillor Archer referred to the fact that the regional council had poured millions into kickstarting the desperately needed Wairarapa irrigation scheme, which oddly has never got traction with political leadership here in Wairarapa, which I find extremely difficult. In the Mayoral Forum, we have had good allies, and I won't embarrass them by naming them, but suffice to say that the rest of the Wellington region is not some gigantic monolith that's out to get Wairarapa. People love Wairarapa. A lot of them spend a lot of their time over here, actually, and many of them have houses here. They want us to succeed as a vital part of the region. Of course, the government, as has been pointed out, will ultimately decide what happens. But if they put us into a region-wide unitary, which I think is likely when they measure the evidence against their criteria, it'll be important that we've been an active part of designing the model. Historically, Wairarapa has always been part of the Wellington region or the province as it used to be, hence the same street names in Wellington, Hutt and Wairarapa. Go and have a look around and see for yourself. Regional and national leaders have always lived here and still do. The two Martinborough residents we've just appointed to the board of our new water entity both have national profiles. And it's not just Pākehā. Clarkin Workman is a major national figure. The late Nelson Rangi chaired the Aratai regional group very effectively. Don't underestimate our influence in Wairarapa. Like many, my starting point on this 3-month journey was a Wairarapa unitary. I note the results of our opt-in online survey, wanting a Wairarapa unitary, but equally strongly concerned about the affordability of Kia. Having looked at the evidence and considered what we need for the future, today I'm voting for Wairarapa to stay with the Wellington region and help us thrive. I live here not by birth, but by choice, and I want it to be the best place to live in Aotearoa. Thank you. So, councillors, we've all had a go at this. we get to the part now where we have to vote, and I just want to make sure I'm getting the process right. We would vote on 3, the first one, and if that fails, we use a vote on the second, or does this one
Second one
stand?
becomes,
Second one stand.
because you said Head Start.
That's it. Okay. So
Are you going to take it by division too, for the record?
yes, we will have we'll have a show of hands, I think. Yeah, absolutely. So the motion to vote on is to agree to submit a Wairarapa Unitary Council Head Start proposal. I want all those in favour to raise their hand, please. That's 4. All those, we'll note the names? Do you note the names? Thank you. All those in favour, all those against, please raise your hands. That's 6. So the motion is lost. Do we vote on the second one, or does that become, that is the motion?
It's the
We have to
motion.
vote on it.
Yeah, we'll vote on it
Okay,
by all means, but it's a flip.
but it is the motion, so that's it. So the second part of the motion stands? Yep, okay, so I declare that carried. Now the
Third and fourth resolutions. are
third,
now
fourth
mute.
and fifth were only if the
If it's
Wairarapa Unitary was passed. The sixth decision authorises the chair of the mayoral forum to submit the Head Start proposal to government on behalf of councillors have agreed to it by 9th of August, which is Sunday. And I guess this is we have to agree to submit a proposal. So I'll move that, seconded by councillor Taylor. All those in favour,
Aye.
please say aye. Against, no.
No.
Councillors Elms, Bosley and Baker. No. Thank you, councillors. The last decision is to note that the Cabinet has indicated that it will decide on Head Start proposals that it will accept before the national election in November 26, and that if a proposal is accepted, government may seek modifications, which is kind of a noting one, which I guess we can all, I'll move that again, seconded by councillor Taylor. All those in favour, aye. Against, no. Carried. Councillors, I just want to thank you all very much for the way this debate has been conducted, not just today, but over the last several weeks. This has been really, really difficult for us as a council, and I know we've all been agonising over this. Many people have talked to us, we've reached out to others in our community, and we've all considered this to be a brave decision, whichever road we took. So thank you very much, all of you. We've got a lot of work to do in this. We know what the results of the other 2 councils' votes were in Wairarapa. I imagine we'll still be working with them on various issues, and we'll be working with the rest of the councils in the Wellington region. And I do look forward to your contributions on when we get to the detail of that decision making and what the models will be and what really suits us best. We have to be very strong and clear in our putting forward what works best for us. So again, thank you, CEO and staff, for everything you've done for us. It's not over yet, and I think we've got some way to go. This is going to go on for months and months and months. In the meantime, as a council, we actually have a lot of work to do, because regardless of today's decision, we're going out of existence in 2 years' time, and we have a big agenda. And I'll say this to the public: we as a council have a big agenda we want to get through in the next 18 months. So wherever we end up, we leave South Wairarapa in a very strong place. We want to be in a strong position, because this is the most amazing community, and we want it to retain its strength and its vibrancy and its ability to look after all of its own. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll ask you to join in the closing karakia. We do have it for us. Thank you. That's on the floor, which I can't see. I don't want to get it wrong. I haven't got it with me. So, Councillor Rutini, can you start this for us, please? Thank you.
Mo tēnei wā, ngā te tia, mai mā katoa, mā te hoa, mā te whānau, ai au ki
Kia ora. Thank you all. Thank you, public, for coming to this meeting.